do not take it lightly, and I'm thankful for that. You can be turning to Joshua chapter 1. Joshua chapter 1, we'll be looking at verse 1 through 9. As you're turning there, one of the great privileges that I do have, particularly with the position that I have now, is I get to travel around. The SNBA has 99 churches. That's 99 churches. Our lower end is right there at the north end of Beaumont. We've got a few churches there. Runs all the way up to San Augustine, over to the Lakes area, large geographical area over in Woodville and beyond there as well. And so one of the privileges I get is I get to go around and I get to visit with pastors, I get to visit with churches, I get to supply as well. And here's what I want to give you right now, first and foremost. Amy and I get the privilege of walking into many a church. And so it's really easy to begin to assess a church once you walk through the doors, particularly as you're walking in as a guest. And we have walked into churches where, let's just say, it's not real gracious, it's not real receptive. And again, over time, as they begin to find out who we are and stuff, it can be good. But then I actually can note something of where a church has got some struggles and some issues. I'm going to tell you, that's not this church. It wasn't this church. Now, again, I've had the privilege of being here with a men's event not too long ago. And that was great as well. But also, sometimes you get a report from a pastor. Well, I had breakfast with your pastor. The report's good. Thank you for being a church, again, that is extending grace and hospitality to your pastor, to those who are coming in. And I'm telling you, I believe there's some great things ahead for this church. I believe you have a great merging of a great pastor with a great church. And I'm telling you, God can use that in mighty, mighty ways. So continue to be that type of people. I do want to do this too before I start, because I think it's important to help a church know how it can truly edify and build up the pastor. Now, think about for a moment, what is the one thing that your pastor does that really nobody else does, or they can, but they really generally don't? What does he do? What does he do on Sunday that nobody else does? He preaches, right? All right. So, again, it's great to encourage a pastor along those other venues and areas where he serves and the things that he does. Certainly he visits and checks on you during the week, that type of stuff. Those are powerful, powerful things. But do you know where a good pastor puts his number one effort in? Preparing the word for his people. So you want to make a difference in your pastor? I'm going to give you a hint. You can practice and get ready for next week, okay? Pay close attention when he preaches, okay? And when you get done, don't walk out and say, hey, good job, pastor. Because from one standpoint, it doesn't mean you don't care, but in one sense, it doesn't help us know what matters. So for a pastor, you want to make a difference in a pastor. When God pricks your heart, or all of a sudden just explodes something in your mind and heart because of something that was shared, make note of it. Make note of it mentally, and then as you're walking out, tell your pastor, you know, the way you just brought that truth out about Jonah, I've been in church my whole life. I've never seen or heard that, and that really spoke to me about an area, and you can name that. Man, you know what that'll do? Your pastor is going to go back to the study for next week, and he's going to pour in deeper, and he's going to be more prayerful, and he's going to get better and better at preparing his messages when you're going alongside him and saying, man, you're making a difference with what you're sharing. So do that. That's one of the biggest things I guarantee you will make a difference for your pastor. So, again, thank you for being here. It's a privilege. And as we get ready there to turn, if you would, if you're able, would you stand with me as we read God's Word, Joshua 1 through 9. Joshua 1 through 9, I'm going to pick up at verse 1. It says, after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joseph, the son of Nun, Moses' assistant, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise, go over this Jordan, you and all this people, into the land that I am giving to them, to the people of Israel. Every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon, I have given to you, just as I promised to Moses. From the wilderness in this Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites, to the great sea, toward the going down of the sun, shall be your territory. No man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. Just as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not leave you or forsake you. Be strong and courageous, for you shall cause this people to inherit the land that I swore to their fathers to give them. Only be strong and very courageous, being careful to do according to all the law that Moses my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may have good success wherever you go. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and you will have good success. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened, and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Now, as I said, you may be seated, I'm sorry. As I said, I did have breakfast with Aaron, and he did let me know that y'all really expect about 2 hours of preaching. I don't know if I can do that, but I'll probably go about an hour and a half, no more, okay? So, no. But again, it's such a joy to be here, and I'm thankful for that. And you know, one of the things that I just had a privilege of doing was getting to spend some time with my dad. My dad is actually in the very beginning stages of Alzheimer's and dementia. It's beginning to be evident. If you didn't know him, you probably wouldn't recognize it, but we who have grown up knowing, we begin to see those traits and those changes that are taking place. So my brother and I, we just went and spent a time we just picked a spot, we went there, and we began to pick some activities that my dad would enjoy doing, and we just went and did them. Nothing other than just being with my dad. It was great. Really enjoyed that. And it made me even think back to, as my dad has vested in me, now I get the privilege of turning back and investing in him. I remember a moment when he vested in me. And probably, if I asked him today, and not just because of dementia, he would not remember this moment, but I do. In fact, it set me on a trajectory that it may have taken years and years to get right, but it set me in the right direction. I remember when I was 18 and we were I was young, I was married at 17, 15, and my first wife passed away in 97, but we were married very young, and we were beginning to embark on those challenges of being a parent. And I was 18, and there was let's say a family conflict, and there was some tension between her family and my family, and there was a family meeting that was called. And as some of her family was then trying to dictate and say some things, and then they got to my dad, and they were telling my dad that he needed to tell me to do such and such, be this way, and act this way, and da. And my dad stood up. He said, well, this meeting's over. And they said, do what? He said, this meeting's over. He said, my son is 18 years old, and he is a man. I don't tell him anything anymore. I advise, I counsel, but I don't tell him. He's a man. We walked out. What he doesn't know is what that did for me in that moment where I was struggling. I mean, life was all of a sudden coming at me very quick. But he affirmed me as a man. He said, yeah, you're going to mess up. You're going to make mistakes. It's not always going to be easy. But I got trust in you, faith in you. You're a man now, and I'm going to do it. Wow. How powerful a moment, and I'll never forget that. Well, this is what's happening for Joshua in this moment. Now think about, for a moment, before we dive back into the text, what's precluding this. Do you remember Joshua was one of the 12 spies, and that he had gone and searched out the land of milk and honey, and came back and gave the glowing report of how wonderful the land was, how truly it was, everything that God had promised and said. And then as he's giving that report, there's that other group, him and Caleb are like, hey, this is great stuff. And the other ones confirm it's great stuff, but there's 10 of them that go, but there's giants in the land. And Joshua and Caleb are like, but it doesn't matter, there's giants in the land. God said go, and we can go, and we can trust him to do it. And so let's just go. Let's do this. This is great. All the promise is right there at our taking. And then what happened because of the 10, there was rebellion among the people. Fear began to set in, and they're like, no, we're not going. And what happened is that they wandered around the desert for 40 more years till that generation passed, until God could raise up a generation that was willing to obey. Those are real things that we have to remember. None of us are essential to God's work. None of us are essential to God's work. If you won't obey, guess what God will do? God will move you out of the way and find someone who will. Now, that's the harsh thing, but here's the beauty. If you will obey what God can do with your obedience, it's unbelievable how powerful that was. And so here now comes the moment, after that 40 years, even Moses himself, so I'm going to get to set in the land. Now there's this transition that's going to take place. Now as Moses is ebbing away, that generation has passed. Now it's time for Joshua to step up. Now you remember how bold and courageous he was as one of the spies? Let's go. Let's do this. Well, have you ever wondered, this, when you see something in Scripture, and particularly in those 9 verses, 3 times, what does God tell him? Be strong and courageous. Do you know why God would do that? Because he's scared to death. That's why he would do that. God doesn't waste words, okay? If he's saying be strong and courageous, he's trying to help the person who is fearful and right now feeling like, oh, I can't do it. So he's actually communicating, well, what happened to Joshua? Well, it's really easy to get excited. It's really easy to be bold when someone else is out front to take the first shots, right? When Moses was going to be the guy out front that would take the first shots, it was real easy to be in support of him. But now things have changed. One of the things when you go around and visit churches, and probably just like you, there's such a rich history, and you can probably right now name off many of the saints that have passed on, the people who poured in, and the way that they served and the things that they did. And you go, man, it was so good, it was so great, but here's the thing, guess what? They passed on, guess who's up now? Guess who's in the batter's box, metaphorically? It's yours. So whatever happened in the past, good or bad, that's where it needs to stay, because now guess whose turn it is? It's yours. And it's real easy in those moments for us to find ourselves a little bit timid, a little bit fearful, a little bit hesitant. Because wait a second, now it's my responsibility. Well, that's what's happening here. And so as we come back and look at the text, let's see that in a little bit more depth. As I read there in verse 1, it said that after the death of Moses, now it is Joshua's responsibility. Now it is Joshua's, who was the assistant, now he takes the position of leader. And God gives him a very clear instruction there. He says, now therefore arise. Now, how hard is it to confuse that type of a command? If God says to arise, is that something that you sit there and debate? Is that something that you would begin to think, well, maybe, yeah, I'll do that tomorrow? A lot of times I fear that we spend a lot of time with explicit commands given by God and things we absolutely know we should be doing. And we waste time and effort debating it when really what that is veiled disobedience. Veiled disobedience. So as we begin to dive in, I want to ask 2 questions, and you can write them down, I think, to be helpful, would probably be helpful because at the end I may have to ask you to remind me what I said. And so, but you can write them down, but also let it be kind of what you're just thinking about as we move forward. What step of faith is God calling you to take? Not Southside. Not Pastor Eric. Not the person sitting next to you. Not your spouse. What step of faith is God calling you to take? And then that second question is kind of twofold, but as you identify that, then what is hindering you from it? What are you going to do about it? So, as you've identified that, what is that that's hindering you, and then how are you going to respond to it? What are you going to do about it? Okay, so just think about that. So think about that in relation to arise. Real explicit, real simple. If God says arise, you know what you're supposed to do, right? Arise. A lot of times there's a step of faith we're not following, but it's pretty explicit just like that. It was a do and we don't. So we see that God is giving clear instructions. He says, okay, guess what? It's your ball game now, Joshua. No more sitting on the bench. No more just practice. No more, again, being a support to the main show. But now it is you. It is time for you to arise. And now, not only get up, but now I know exactly where I'm going to tell you to go. It's where 40 years ago it should have been, but now it's your time to make it happen. Go over the Jordan. You and all these people. Now just think for a moment what that must have felt like. There's one thing when we're responsible for ourselves. My salvation moment was the reality of when my girlfriend, who was 15, was pregnant. That was when God broke through me. Because, I was a rebellious teenager doing all kinds of crazy things, giving my parents nothing but problems. But I was raised in a Christian home. I had the values instilled. I was just ignoring. But yet, when I was 17, and then my girlfriend tells me she's pregnant, all of a sudden the reality that now the things I do are not only going to affect me, but are going to affect my son that was coming. That wider responsibility than just myself all of a sudden opened up a whole other aspect. Think about for Joshua right now. I mean, if God was telling Joshua, hey, I want you to get your sword, get up and go and leave everybody behind, I have no doubt Joshua would have gone, let's do it. If I die, fine. But I'm going to obey. But then when God says, and take all those people, millions of people, are now your responsibility as well. One of the hesitancies often within the confines of our churches is when God calls you to do something, He's not just calling you because He's also turning around and saying, those people here in that Sunday school class that I'm calling you to teach, yeah, you're going to take on some responsibility. Those people in your neighborhood that I'm telling you to reach, yeah, you're going to take on some responsibility for them too. Oh, the weight of responsibility can definitely make the knees knock. So that's what's happening. So as He turns and He tells them, He says, hey, you're going to take all them with you into the land that I am giving to them. Now, that should be a great comfort. Because does Joshua need to go conquer? In one sense, yes. He has to go and participate. He has to be willing. But yet, God is saying, if you'll go, I've got it. If you'll go, trusting me, I've got this. I'm going to give it to you. The people of Israel. And then I love this verse. Every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon, I have given to you. Would you for a moment remove yourself from Joshua's time frame. Put yourself right in your life right now. Go back and ask yourself that question. What step of faith is God calling you to take? And then put those words to it. If God is calling you to take it, do you realize He's telling you every place that you put your foot on, I'll give to you. Not because you deserve it, but because He called you to it. And it's for His glory that He'll make it happen. Just think of that. See, God doesn't call us to just go wandering around aimlessly. God doesn't call us just to flip a coin and decide to go this way versus that. God has given us a direction, a place to go, a purpose to fulfill. And He tells us, if you are aligning yourself with me and trusting me, and when I say step, you step, you have no fear that ground is going to give away. You have no fear that you're going to be in a situation that I have not already preordained and orchestrated. You can have no fear that you are stepping wrong, because if you're following me, you're always stepping right. Just think about the power of that. So with whatever God's calling you to step out on, step forward and do, when you step, you can do it without fear. Because God's called you to do it. Man, just the freedom in that. The freedom in that. Now, I do want to clarify, okay? Because I know you can turn on the TV sometimes and you can catch some of these preachers that will tell you, man, you can just claim this and do this and all will be smooth and easy. That is not what God is saying. There was bloodshed, there was tears, there was crying, there was heartache, there was difficult times. But every place that foot stepped, God gave. So when He called you to step out, He's not saying, I'm going to give you a smooth, rose petal covered pathway. But see, if you're in His will, following His commands, much like what Paul would dictate and declare, you don't need a smooth pathway. Because obedience to Him is satisfaction enough. Is it better to have a comfortable life and be disobedient, or have an uncomfortable life and be obedient? You know, sadly, a lot of times we find ourselves picking comfort and disobedience over discomfort and obedience. But if we are going to be obedient to Him, follow what He has given us to do, we can trust that He will be faithful. It's never an issue of God's faithfulness. You know, if you think about this too, another way to consider it is that never has a sin been committed that doesn't indicate a lack of trust toward God. Never has a sin been committed that doesn't indicate a lack of trust toward God. Doesn't matter what kind of sin it is. It doesn't matter what flavor. When you pull back the veil enough, what you will always find is that there was some point where, and this is for myself as well, when I've looked at my own sins in my life, what I have seen is, well, yes, I knew that I should do this, but yet I wanted to do that. I thought this would solve my issue, and it would do it in a way that I would like, preferably, versus what God was calling me to do. And ultimately, so whenever I committed a sin, wherever it was, what I'm saying is, God, I don't trust you. God, I don't trust you. So the problem is never whether God is faithful and trustworthy. The problem is always whether we're just going to be faithful in return and trust Him. So this is what we see taking place for Joshua. Now, we know kind of the rest of the story. Joshua is going to step up. Joshua is going to do exactly as God has said. And he is going to take the people into the promised land. But in this moment here, he's just a man. Given a direction by God, a whole bunch of responsibility, and he's not sure he's up to. Because he's just a man. I never really doubt much sometimes when I'm with other guys and things because I know their abilities and talents. Often I doubt when it's in my hands. One of my many business ventures I was in was actually a tree removal business. We had a contract to do some tree removal, hazardous trees along forestry property that was threatening homes and so forth. And the day we needed to go do that job, my tree climber was not at his best. He had actually tweaked his back, and we needed to get the job done. It was certainly a profitable job. And so as we went out, we were going to go out. I said, well, okay, since you can't climb the tree, and there was enough margin in the bid, and I said, we'll just rent a lift, and we'll just use a lift, and that's fine. I'll go up with the lift, and I'll help you. You just kind of tell me what to do. Well, we got up in the lift, and one of the areas that we were cutting trees over and having to come down in pieces by was a power line that was feeding the house. And so the guys on the ground were taking the power line with a rope and being able to kind of pull it out of the way so that the pieces would fall and not hit the power line. And all was going great. And as we're working our way down, again, all he's doing is cutting, I'm doing the pushing. And he said, okay, he said, we need to get the guys to pull it the other way because as we continue down, the pieces are going to fall different. Well, in my arrogance, I looked at him and I said, we can cut it other way. Let's just do it. Now, he's got years and years of experience. I happen to own the business. And now I'm about to tell him how to do it. And so I explained to him, look, just cut it. He said, I'm telling you, it's going to fall. It's going to hit the power line. I'm looking, I'm going, no, it's not. I said, just cut it. He said, I'm telling you. I said, look, you work for me. Do what I tell you. Okay. So he cut it. And as it tumbles over, I'm watching, and sure enough, it tumbles, hits the power line, blows out the neighborhood because it blows transformers, boom, like fireworks going down the road. Let's just say that was not a profitable venture for us that day because after I paid for all those transformers and stuff, and my tree cutter just looked at me and said, you want to move it now? Why do I share that? It's because, there are so many times we think we know better than God knows. And we're trying to tell him, hey, just do it my way. Just let me do this. Look, this is my life. Don't you think I got this figured out? I'll call you and to get you to help me when I need it. Oh, our arrogance sometimes. In verse 5, he mentions there, he says that no man, this is God still speaking to him, he says, no man should be able to stand before you all the days of your life. Just as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. Man, do we not need these words ringing in our ears and our necks? I will never leave you nor forsake you. Have you ever been in those moments where it felt like you did? Have you ever been in those moments where you don't know how you're going to draw your next breath? Have you ever been looking into what is your future and it seemingly is hopeless? That's when we need those words to resonate deep. He will not leave you. He will not forsake you. Yes, storms will come. Yes, they will do damage. Do you realize if our God is who the Word says He is, not 1 inch of water can rise higher than what God has orchestrated for it. Not one tornado can turn a direction it hasn't been ordained by God. Not one event in their life can unfold that God has not already determined. Now, can I answer the how and why and how all that connects? No, I can't. But here's what I can do. I know God is in control. And then I also know another truth that correlates right alongside that. God is in control and God is good. You take those two together, that's enough to weather any storm. That's enough to know you can trust Him. He will not leave you or forsake you. Then he says, be strong and courageous. Be strong and courageous. You shall cause the people to inherit the land that I swore to their fathers. Be strong and courageous. You know that our lack of being strong and courageous, our lack of taking those steps of obedience, have an effect not only on our own life. Do you realize that because God has called you to take that step, whatever it might be, and when we are not taking that step, that in essence there are those who we are to be a part of making sure they can inherit the truth of the gospel, that they are to be able to have the impact of God in their life, that they are able to be able to even know potentially who this God is, that when we are unwilling to take that step of faith, we are denying people an inheritance that God wanted to give and utilize us in. But guess what? God will reach His people. He'll do it with you, or He'll do it without you. I'm telling you, it's much better to do it with you than to let Him bypass you, to let Him have you die off and wait for another generation. Be strong and courageous. Boy, we take things so bad, so poorly. I mean, we really twist them out of their context. Understand, God is not telling Joshua, Joshua, I want you to look at the muscles on your arm. Man, I'm telling you, you're strong. You can do this. Just take account of how physically strong you are, how mentally tough you are. Just remember those things and, hey, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and just get out there and do it, man. Give it your best. Is that what God's telling you? He's saying, follow me. And you will be strong. And you will be courageous. Because I will be the one doing the work. You will be the vessel. And you can trust me. What area in your life, what places that you need to take a step forward in faith? Are you looking at yourself going, but I don't have it? And God's going, right, you don't have it. And no matter what you do, no matter how much time and effort you put in, no matter how much you want to do it, your hands, your wisdom, your body is not going to be enough. But if you'll trust me, I'll make you a vessel. It will accomplish it because I'm doing it for my glory. You'll get to participate. Man, what a promise. What an opportunity to come alongside. It tells you again in verse 7, only be strong and very courageous. Do not turn from it, the right hand or to the left. What is he telling me? Do not go what you think is a better path, what you think would be the right way. Know what I desire and follow it. There's, I think, two primary reasons that people do not follow God's will. Mainly, the first and foremost and the most predominant is actually just plain old disobedience, which is based out of fear or selfishness, whatever, however you want to word it. But there is another one. They don't know God's will. And the problem is they don't know God's will because they don't know God. They've never spent time getting to know God. Oh, they can check the box. I've been to Sunday school. I read my Bible. I said some prayers. I put some money in an offering plate. They can check the box. They've done their religious duty, but they have spent no time knowing this God. And letting this God who knows them to reveal who they truly are. The good, the bad, and the ugly, kind of like the Clint Eastwood. So he can show you the things that he has put in you that is good, that he wants to maximize. That he can show you the bad things in you that he, through his Son, Jesus Christ, has forgiven and is willing to wipe away if you'll wipe it away by trusting him. And the ugly, the things that you still got to work on day by day. So if we would trust him, if we would follow him, though the right path may look a little smoother, or though the left path may look a little shorter, we'll go the way he's called us to go. There he says that in verse 9, he says, have I not commanded you? We'll come back to that question. What step of faith has God called you to take? And then let those words again speak to you, not just Joshua thousands of years ago, but to you. Has he not commanded you? And if he has, then what's keeping you from it? What are you going to do in response to it? Well, he told Joshua, and he's telling us as well, be strong and courageous, trust in me. Do not be frightened. Do not be dismayed. For the Lord your God is wherever you go. The Lord your God is wherever you go. Remember in Joshua's day, they had the pillar of fire and the pillar of cloud to be able to know that God was present. Remember Jesus in his departure, speaking to his disciples, said, it is better that I go, because one who comes after me is a better gift to you. Because see, if Jesus wasn't physically present somewhere, that meant he was absent. But now the gift that God has given us is his very presence in our very heart through the Holy Spirit, that wherever you go, he is with you. So, what step of faith has God called you to? What are you going to do about it today? Not tomorrow. Because see, obedience is not a tomorrow. You realize you cannot obey tomorrow. You cannot obey tomorrow. Obedience is always only a now. Doesn't even matter if you didn't obey yesterday. Yesterday doesn't matter. It's gone. Tomorrow doesn't matter because it's not here. The only obedience that matters is now. As we come to a time of close, I'm going to ask again if we have maybe a couple of deacons that would be willing to come up and be on the hedges. Because here, what I want to ask you to do is whatever that is that you need to do, if you keep it silent, guess what? You're going nowhere. You need to come and voice that step you need to take. Maybe it's to teach a Sunday school class. Maybe it's to visit someone you haven't visited. Maybe it's to heal an old wound. Maybe it's, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's to embark on something that God has placed upon your heart that you can't figure out how in the world you could do it. But he has put that passion in your heart. So I'm going to ask again, you don't know me, but I'll be down front. And if it's safer for you to come and talk to me since you don't know me, then come and do so. If you want to go to a trusted person that you know, go and share with them. This is what I know God has had on my heart. This is what I need to do in response. And would you tell them, would you spend some time possibly praying? Obedience is now, not tomorrow. Lord, again, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for this time together. We thank you for the reality of how you have always been faithful. You just call us now to follow you. How much easier could it honestly be than just to follow you? And yet we make it so difficult because of our fear, because of our own knowledge of our weaknesses, our inabilities, our failures. But Lord, if you speak, you say, truly, have you not commanded? And so, Lord, I'm praying as your word is going out, I pray that your word is being received. And yet, Lord, your word is not done until we are doing it. So, Lord, help us to do today whatever it is to put our mark, to plant our flag in the ground and say, today, now, I'm going to obey. And tomorrow, we can rise again and say, today, now, I'm going to obey. Help us, Lord, to be one who trusts you, who take that step of faith. You called us to it, so help us now to step forward. Let it be for your glory in Christ.